Hey, everybody, what is up? It's Not a Newbie back again with yet another stream. How are you guys doing? Hey, what's up, Van Brand? It's good to see you in the stream. Let me see here.
And I'm back from the A. Hitting the rest with the game, little shorty gon' slide when I send it the lane.
That's crazy. Okay, hold up. What, Baron Barrett? What happened?
I got a stress for the team. I'm off for the city, boy. You lame.
Mr. Pizza literally just DM'd me saying that more stuff happened.
Shorty said she wanna kiss me.
Depending on how long it takes and whether or not I feel like streaming for longer, I'll have you guys. I'd be willing to have a call with you guys, but it depends. I want to make sure I get to all the topics I want to get to today. Come on, give me a second here. Just gotta throw this over here in the Discord. By the way, if you're not in the Discord and you want to hop into calls with me, make sure you join my Discord. The link is in the description below. It's dscrd.ndnwb.cc. I believe that's the link to it. Now, this has been happening, like, now they recently changed how they do the cans. I don't know if that has something to do with it, but it's been, like, foaming through the top, which is not great because the foam actually doesn't really taste that great, and also, it's just very messy. I kind of hate it. I don't know if it's like a design of the can. If they're trying to pull like a Guinness thing. I think that's how Guinness works, but I'm not a fan of it. Let's see. There we go. Just gotta throw this in here. All right. We're good. We're set. Thanks for telling me about the drama, Baron Brett. I'm going to keep an eye on that if I have time at the end of the stream. I do want to have a call with either you or Mr. Pizza or somebody to kind of break down everything that happened. Oh, he says it was resolved pretty quickly. Banned everyone who caused the problems. Okay, well that's cool. We don't need to inflame it then. If it's not, if it's not big, I don't need to like poke my head into whatever drama is happening just because drama's happening. Drama happening doesn't mean that I need to react to it unless it's geopolitics, and in that case it becomes a whole different thing. When there's war in Rwanda now, I will say Rwanda is known historically for being a pretty violent area, but things have recently been heating up. Now I'm not 100% aware of all the things that have been happening, but I do know that I believe it's the Congo has recently declared war on Rwanda, and so I think it'd be really, really good. It's like English speakers, America. I feel like a lot of the internet, especially the English-speaking internet, can be very much centric on America. But there's a lot of things happening all across the world. I think it's important to kind of dig into what's happening in countries that's not our own, or ones that are that aren't cool to talk about being mad about, like China or Russia. I think it's good to know what's happening in the world generally. So figured we would do something a little bit political, but also educational, as we see what's going on in Rwanda. Here we have, this is DW News's explanation of kind of how we got to where we are, and then I'm going to react to two really short videos explaining where we're at today.
After weeks of rising tensions due to increasing rebel fighting in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, Rwanda and the DRC have now agreed to de-escalate tensions. The agreement reached at talks mediated in Angola.
By the way, those talks have kind of broken down. I think they formally declared war today or yesterday. So.
Said in the chat.
entails an
Hey, Galaxy,
immediate
what's up?
end to hostilities, the revival of the Congo-Rwanda Commission, and the retreat of M23 fighters from
Said
Congo.
in the chat.
The
I don't want to die.
I thought you lived in America. This is war in Africa between the Congo and Rwanda.
Rwanda Commission and the retreat of M23 fighters from Congo. The aim is to normalize diplomatic relations, as presidents of the two countries explained.
We are looking forward to
We're looking forward to creating a normalization between our two countries by also resolving issues that are on the ground
that are on the ground
I wonder what
that have
caused
led
things
us to
to
this
break down.
point.
led us to this point.
DJLL reacts.
I really
in the
hope
chat.
and expect
Holy
this
SH
process
asterisk T.
to bring about an immediate ceasefire and the withdrawal of this M23 group.
I've never heard of
GLXS
M23. I'm not super familiar with them. Hopefully, this video
Waiting for a
explains
roadmap.
what's happening with them.
Okay, I'm scared of this war stuff.
That will
To be
lead
fair,
peace.
you know, this is a little bit different than, you know, war with Ukraine and Russia because, you know, at least to my knowledge, Rwanda and the Congo, they don't have nuclear weapons. And the only way that you would see this sort of affect everyday life, you know, internationally is if they somehow roped in a bunch of, you know, an escalating cascade of international allies who do have nuclear weapons, which I don't know if that'll happen. We'll have to see. But yeah, it doesn't really matter, you know, whether or not it affects like me specifically. I do think it is good, or even you. Like, I think it is good to know in general what's happening across the world. This is something that's happening across the world. You may not see it, you know, in the mainstream American news, but I do think it's good to cover and take a look at and be aware of. So yeah, that's kind of why I'm covering it this stream. There's American news I'll be covering later today, but I do want to hit on this as well.
Peace, stability, and confidence.
Now, the DRC earlier accused Rwanda of supporting the M23 rebels operating in the forest along the border between the two nations. Scores
So I wonder if the M23 is like a paramilitary, like a one of those, like, you know, like a secret paramil, or I don't know if they're like government sanctioned or whatever, but I wonder if they're just some sort of military group that goes around killing lots of people. Very much how, like,
DJLL reacts.
you know, Palestine
chat.
or
Bro, this
or
incident
whatever
is wild.
would disavow, like, you know, Muslim terrorist groups. Maybe this is the kind of situation here with the M23.
of civilians
I'm
have been
just
killed, and the
speculating here.
flare-up of violence since April has displaced more than 160,000 people in the region. DW correspondent Mariel Mula traveled to Goma in eastern Congo to meet some of those who fled the fighting.
Oh wow.
The sound of a bomb blast made Ramazani Aridi fear for his life. It exploded near his home in the village of Ruhunda, eastern Congo. He knew instantly that the M23 rebels were coming.
It was around 2 a.m. We were all afraid because it was not small bullets. They were bombs. We knew it was an attack, so everybody started fleeing.
He got shot in the crossfire between the M23 rebels and the Congolese army. 650 families have found refuge at this school near Goma, North Kivu's capital. Conditions are deplorable. People sleep in classrooms, and they tell us there's no food or medical care. 160,000 people have been forced to flee since the clashes began in April. The M23 was pushed back by the Congolese army, backed by UN troops, and surrendered in 2013.
I kind of wonder how this country like got to the situation, got like into the state that they're in now. I do know that, you know, centuries ago,
GLXSKY.
you know, the
Said in
British
the chat.
did go in.
Wow, watching these make me
yeah,
want to be grateful
the,
for life. GLXSKY. Said
Yeah.
in the chat. This is heartbreaking.
Yeah, it is, and kind of to that point, it does kind of make you, you know, if you live in a first world country, you know, even if it's becoming a second world country or whatever, if you live in a first world country, you know, I get things like this do kind of make you grateful for like where you're at. So, I mean, that's definitely one big thing. I think another thing to think about too is kind of I don't know if this goes in depth into why this country is kind of in such an impoverished situation, but I think it is interesting to learn how these countries get into these sorts of situations so that you know best how to, politically, inform your vote. But for people who aren't going to, bring policies in that will make your country kind of look like this. Now, it'd be interesting to see if the reason why this country is so poor is in part due to some of the colonialism that happened, I think, like centuries or thousands of years ago. No, not thousands of years ago, but centuries ago, where the British would come in and just colonize large swaths of Africa. And that's led to, and both that and also kind of just like pulling out without leaving much infrastructure behind in Africa, kind of led to them developmentally being behind in a lot of ways when it comes to infrastructure. Also, they're very they can be very fractured. But yeah, it's interesting. I wonder if they'll get into that. They probably won't, because I think this video is supposed to center on what's going on in Rwanda with them and the Congo, which makes sense because, to be honest, that's why we're here taking a look at this.
But in November last year, it re-emerged. The militia group claims to protect the Tutsi minority in eastern Congo and accuses the government of failing to observe a previous peace deal. Kinshasa says the M23 rebels are backed by Rwanda, but Kigali denies the accusations.
How do you explain the resurgence of M23? With big caliber weapons, with equipment which can destroy planes.
Whoa.
Is the M23 capable of buying missiles and long-range mortars?
That's interesting. So basically what he's saying is, it sounds like what he's saying is that M23 has to be working with Rwanda,
Said in the chat.
because
Are they
Rwanda
killing
has
innocent
access
people?
to all these very powerful military weapons, but the M23 doesn't, and they don't have the capacity to buy such high-powered weapons either. That's very interesting.
Akenga claims
Are they killing innocent people? I would assume so. That tends to happen during war. Also, M23, yeah, I think in that earlier clip, didn't they go and hit that village that displaced a lot of people? So M23 seems to be, pretty, not, Human Rights Council friendly, I think would be one way to put it. And if Rwanda is behind it, perhaps that could be a major reason why they don't really want to be associated with the group.
Rwanda's goal is to occupy DRC's territory and exploit its mineral riches.
Rwanda is among the biggest exporters of gold and coltan. But there is no grain of gold in Rwanda. They keep the insecurity in Congo in order to get the minerals for a cheap price or even for free.
Oh, interesting.
According to the US Treasury, more than 90% of Congo's gold is smuggled to regional states, including Rwanda. It also says that the gold trade is a major driver of conflict. People in Goma are tired of violence.
Oh, interesting. Well, that makes sense. To an extent, I think that, I'm never going to be a big fan of violence as long as I'm pro-life, but it does make sense, fighting over gold if you're in an impoverished country. That makes total sense.
Since May, anti-Rwandan protests have been held regularly across the DRC.
They are Tutsis from Rwanda. Their uniforms are Rwandan, their guns are Rwandan. They are shooting indiscriminately.
Local activists...
Yeah, so kind of to Galaxy's point, yeah, they seem like they're killing innocent people here.
in Goma feel let down by the international community.
The international community doesn't say anything because they don't care about our insecurity. They don't care about our well-being. For them, it's only important who's the guardian of their geopolitical interests.
This has nothing to do with Russia or Ukraine.
Yeah, no, it has nothing to do with Russia or Ukraine. This is entirely in Africa, completely different part of the world.
A sentiment shared by residents in Goma.
Our country is rich, but we don't benefit at all. We can't really say we are rich, as we don't see anything of it.
Wow, wait, so does the government kind of keep all of the money? Because they said that they import and export, or mostly export gold. You would think that's a highly lucrative business, but if that's all being kept by the government, then that could explain why the country is so impoverished. It's another reason why I'm a small government stan. I hate, big government policies, and, of course, fascism and stuff like that. Largely just because, you don't want totalitarianism because it empowers governments to do things like this, take all of your exports, take all the proceeds of the exports and not give it to any of the people. It's ridiculous.
We can't pass a year without hearing that somewhere around Goma, massacres or a war take place.
Ramazani has had enough of war. He now only has one wish, and that is a safe home to return to.
For more on this, I am now joined by Mvemba Pezo Dizolele. He is Director, Africa Program with the Center for Strategic and International Studies. Hello, Mvemba. Welcome to the program. Now, we just saw in the report a young man that's hoping for the end of the ongoing conflict. But what is really behind the long-lasting tensions between the DRC and Rwanda?
Eddie, thank you for having me. It's a long-lasting issue that actually goes back to the genocide in 1994 in Rwanda.
It is it's a very infamous incident. I believe that's what is generally known as the Rwandan genocide. You'll hear that commonly cited. It's a very deadly incident.
Where armed groups, particularly the armed forces of Rwanda, are located in the DRC, and that led to the collapse, if you will, the overthrow of the Mobutu regime, and eventually caused the split of Congo into three areas of influence. One influenced by Uganda with the MLC under Jean-Pierre Bemba, one influenced by Rwanda with the RCD, what they call Rassemblement Congolais pour la Démocratie, and then, of course, the third part was controlled by the Kinshasa regime. After the peace process that took place in 2003, and foreign armed groups were supposed to leave the country, the RCD had transformed into a political branch, meaning a political party, did not do well in the election.
Interesting.
And eventually some of the old element of the RCD created a rebel movement called the CNDP with a fellow named Laurent Kunda, if you remember that. Then the RCD in 2009 had collapsed and morphed into a political party. Laurent Kunda had been arrested or taken into Rwanda, where he's still under house arrest. And then some of the troops from the RCD, from the CNDP, they were integrating the Congolese army and had a peace deal, the March 23 peace deal. That's where the name M23 today comes from.
Wow.
Okay.
Some of those
That's crazy that like the name of like the most militant, I guess paramilitary, I suppose, group in the region today, then that name comes from the date that a peace treaty was signed. That's incredibly ironic.
Decided the peace process did not work for them, and they took up arms and became the M23.
Can you tell us who exactly are they and what do they want?
The M23 are soldiers who claim that they were not fully integrated in the Congolese army, and now they want to renegotiate that deal and reintegrate the Congolese army. They also claim that they are taking up arms to protect the Rwandan, Kinyarwanda-speaking people in Eastern DRC.
Well, unfortunately.
But hold on. This is a paramilitary group, kind of independent. It sounds like they're somewhat independent. It is literally based out of a somewhat failed political party, which was, crafted by, I think, some violent groups. I don't know if they even have any standing to say, hey, we're the ones protecting Rwanda, because they're completely outside of, they don't have any jurisdiction to do so. Now, one could argue, that dude from...
Said in the chat. Newbie, you have your own Wikipedia
there's no way.
page.
I literally don't. If I do, link it, but I highly doubt that I do. Now one could argue, as the dude from the Congo was stating, Rwanda has more powerful military weapons than M23 does. So one could, reasonably say that, hey, if Rwanda really wanted to take care of the M23, then they would, put out their own military personnel and kind of confront them. So I guess that could fuel, speculation that the M23 is indeed working with Rwanda or vice versa, or at least Rwanda has some solidarity with them in some way.
Definitely, innocent people are caught in the crossfire, so something must be done about the situation. But a day after the president of Congo and Rwanda agreed to de-escalate diplomatic tensions, the M23 attacked again. The rebel group says it is not bound by a ceasefire, as no one negotiated with them. So what must be done?
Interesting. So I wonder if the Congo, organized a ceasefire with Rwanda, kind of, assuming that Rwanda was in charge of the M23 and the M23 would do whatever Rwanda agreed to publicly. But since M23 is kind of saying we're not, part of Rwanda, you didn't talk to us. And Rwanda's also kind of returning the favor, saying they don't, we don't
DJ
endorse them.
Reacts.
That's
said in the chat.
That's very, very interesting, and it can be hard because I don't know if the M23 has a leader, a representative, or a president that they could even go to negotiate, which I would completely understand if they didn't even set up their organization to handle that, because you don't want to be killed and assassinated when trying to organize peace. Sorry about my voice there.
To end the conflict.
What must be done, AD, is a full, comprehensive peace process between the DRC and Rwanda. There are a lot of grievances that have just been long-standing. We cannot have peace without a cost. Peace comes at a price, comes at a political price. In other words, leadership in both DRC and Rwanda have to explain to the people what they're trying to achieve and why, and get the legitimacy of the people behind this deal. B, it needs to bring to the fore all the grievances. In the case of DRC, they need an international tribunal. They need truth and reconciliation. In case of Rwanda and DRC, they need to bring to the fore all the grievances that Rwanda has, all the grievances that the DRC has, and then hammer those out in the way that Germany and France did in 1945, in the way that any other country that has made peace has done in the past.
Interesting.
Remember Pezo Desolele, Director of the Africa Program at the Center for Strategic and International Studies. Thank you.
That makes sense. So that video kind of puts into perspective how these countries kind of got to where they are. Here's where they are today.
Hundreds of demonstrators took to the streets of Goma in order to show their support for the Congolese armed forces, to denounce the repeated interference of Rwanda in DR Congo.
By the way, it does seem like generally across the world, the Congo does have more backing and support than Rwanda. Maybe it's general consensus by now that the M23 is working for Rwanda. I don't know. I haven't dug that far into it.
We young people are ready to fight the Rwandan enemy and the international community. We are resisting the wars imposed by Rwanda and Uganda.
Wow. You would never see something like that in America. Like, if you want to, not necessarily, to compare, but I guess it is to compare. But, if you look at general dudes in America versus dudes in more impoverished countries, you do see them be more manly, more willing to fight and stand up to defend themselves and others and people that they care for. It is good to see, but it absolutely sucks that it has to come under these sorts of circumstances.
Anger is growing as the M23 rebels are advancing in the east of the country. Last week, the armed group took control of Kiwanja and central Rutshuru, two localities on the National Strategic Road which leads to Goma. A lot of young people here say they are ready to fight.
We are asking our government to arm us so we can fight. We are willing to pick up arms. If they fail, we will fight.
More than 2,000 miles away in Kinshasa too, many Congolese no longer believe in the diplomatic strategy to establish peace. Civil society groups believe there is a total breakdown in diplomatic relations.
We cannot have diplomatic relations with a country that attacks us, that does not want to live in peace, with a country that takes advantage of our resources to jeopardize our territorial integrity.
The Congolese government has asked the Rwandan ambassador to leave the country within 48 hours. The European Union and the United States have increased contacts with Kinshasa and Kigali to try to find a peaceful way to the...
Oh, wow. Okay. So Galaxy in the chat was wondering if this has anything to do with Russia or Ukraine. It doesn't, but it does sound like the UN is stepping in, which is interesting. It'll be interesting to see if them stepping in helps things or hurts things. Hopefully it helps, but we do see situations in which international intervention makes things worse. So, well, we'll have to see.
Conflict. Despite accusations from the DRC, the Rwandan authorities continue to deny any support for the armed group M23.
So I think that was the day before this.
Is in Kigali with this update.
I think this might be from today or yesterday.
Against Rwanda in Goma, a Congolese city bordering Rwanda, on Monday, the Rwandan government has suggested to its citizens wishing to go to the DRC and cross this border to take all the necessary precautions. The protest happened at a time when the two countries continue to accuse each other of being at the origin of the renewed tensions in eastern DR Congo. According to the head of the Congolese diplomacy, the Rwandan army comes to the aid and advances under cover of the M23, end of quote. But for Kigali, its Congolese neighbor is trying to make Rwanda a scapegoat. International diplomats have been reaching out to both countries. The United States, the European Union and the African Union have called for de-escalation and dialogue. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres called directly Rwandan President Paul Kagame. Following this call, the latter said on Monday that the ways and means to de-escalate are with us building on Nairobi, Luanda and international efforts. We just have to commit ourselves to applying them, end of quote. Another new development, Congo's foreign ministry recalled its temporary chargé d'affaires from Kigali and ordered its newly appointed ambassador to Rwanda not to register his credentials. The expelled Rwandan ambassador Vincent
Sorry, I gotta say at the end there, I'm having trouble understanding exactly what he's saying or meaning. This guy's French accent is pretty thick.
Already left Kinshasa.
But that's wild. And if all they're fighting over is gold, I can see like that making sense. But it also is like terrible. Like imagine if they had wait. But imagine if they had like collaborated to combine their efforts and then maximize their gold exports. Like it always stinks to see people kind of like fighting over something when they can be collaborating each other and having a mutual benefit. Let's see. I want to look here and see. Let me just check this here for a second. All right, here's one thing that's interesting. I wanted to look into this before I move on to more news. It seems like here, a United Nations report found that that Rwanda created and commanded the M23 rebel group. Now they officially ceased their support in 2013, but a lot of the people, I suppose, continued to operate starting in 2017 again. So regardless of whether or not Rwanda is running M23 right now, they certainly created it. So I even more strongly now think that they should use their military weapons and like gunpowder to go in and oppose M23. That could help stem off a war between Rwanda and in the Congo as well, because the M23 is going around just killing a bunch of citizens, and the Congo's kind of has had enough of it. Now this also, I think, does lead more credence to the theory that that Rwanda is giving weapons to M23. You know, if the M23 was started by Rwanda, and now all of a sudden they're showing up with these high-powered, military weapons, one would easily assume that they got them from Rwanda. So just because Rwanda says that they don't support M23 anymore doesn't mean that they don't do it. They could be using proxies or something like that. But hopefully the tensions end soon and someone comes in and puts a stop to M23, and then that can help ease tensions between Rwanda and the Congo. Now, if you guys have been on the internet actually, hold on, wait a second. Before I do this next segment, I gotta take a look at this. I do not have an article on Wikipedia. You guys, I don't know why you guys said I have an article on Wikipedia. I don't. There's this Wikipedia article for newbie, which is the literal word that I got like my handle from. If you guys want to know the etymology of it, I came up with the idea of naming myself non-newbie as a kid because I was like, hey, it's really dumb. It's kind of silly, but I was like, hey, if my name is not a newbie, then no one can ever call me a newbie because I'm literally not a newbie. Turns out it didn't work. Everybody calls me newbie now. It's kind of funny. It's shockingly accurate even for games I've been playing for years. I mean, yeah, it's kind of nice that there's a Wikipedia article for newbie, but it's such a recognized phrase and so popular that I'm not entirely surprised. So, anyways, but thanks for linking that. I figured that there was probably, an article for that, but I didn't know that for sure. All right. We've got another bit of news here, very interesting. Now, if you guys, use the internet at all, especially if you're younger, I think, kind of, within a certain age range, you might be familiar with this small, tiny, smoldering little website called Twitter.com. It's very, very obscure and not at all mainstream. No, just kidding. It's one of the largest social media platforms in America, even if it's just by pure reputation. Now, Twitter, generally, perceptions of Twitter don't really change. The right kind of hates it because they ban hate speech, and the left, they kind of love it because they ban hate speech. And so that's kind of caused the tense divide over on Twitter. As we see more and more right-wing commentators and figures kind of get banned, censored, individuals such as Tim Pool and Jordan Peterson, among others, get their accounts banned or censored on Twitter. Now, Twitter in general has not been making lots of money from what I've heard, but they made a little bit more when Elon Musk decided to buy it. If you guys are kind of familiar with the whole saga, Elon Musk was basically like, yo, I need to buy Twitter, make it better. It needs to be a town square for everyone to be able to talk freely. And so he went and bought Twitter. He's rich like that, so he could do it. He ended up buying it for roughly $42 million or so. after a long struggle and fight and with complex strategies that, maybe I'll get into in a different video. But he ended up, finally buying Twitter, and stuff is kind of going into motion. He changed how the twitter.com website shows up. For example, he set it so that now it shows the explore page instead of a bland sign-in page. He has announced a new subscription service. It's not really a new subscription service, but he's changing Twitter Blue, making it $8 a month, and offering and switching verification so that it is tied to a Twitter Blue account rather than actual verification. Classic verification will still be available, and it will show whatever you're verified as being as a little badge. So let's say you're verified as a politician, then it will say politician in the place I am politicking in. Basically, is what it will say in the description. Now, that's not all. Elon Musk was reportedly going to fire about 75% of the workforce. Then he was like, no, it's going to be like 10 to 25%. And now word has gotten out that it's actually about 50%, and the layoffs begin on Friday. So we have a report here from Alex Heath, who, by the way, has not been the most accurate, but he got a lot of this information from Casey Newton, who has been very, very accurate in reporting everything that's been going on, because he had some contacts, or still has contacts, who are embedded within the company's Slack team, who are looking at the previously public Google Calendar or whatever calendar of David Sachs to see what was going on. David Sachs, by the way, is kind of part of Elon Musk's war room, a few people that Elon Musk is conferring with in order to kind of figure out what to do next with Twitter. But in any case, the layoffs are starting, and they begin on Friday. So he's expected to cut roughly half of the whole workforce in 1 week. Now, let's see here. Now, these are supposed to happen. This is supposed to happen 9 a.m. PST, so that's noon my time. So about the time I usually release videos on my Clips channel, you'll be firing people. Now, this is kind of sad if I'm going to be honest. Now, granted, when it comes to Elon Musk, and I'll probably get into this in my own a different video, but when it comes to Elon Musk, I don't think that him owning Twitter is necessarily a bad thing. There's a potential for him to make Twitter worse, but I think overall he's going to make it better. But it's still very sad to see so many people leave. On one hand, I completely understand it. People at Twitter kind of hate Trump, or not Trump, but Elon Musk. They hate Trump too. But people at Twitter, they kind of hate Musk. And view him as this like demon and demonic hobgoblin creature who's just here to make things bad for other people and ruin everyone's fun at best. I know I'm being a little bit cartoonish here, but they actually genuinely do not like Elon Musk. And so I completely understand, he fired, the highest level of the C-suite within a couple of hours of him taking the company by the reins. So, I don't blame him for wanting to fire a bunch of people. If I was him, I'd probably fire more than 50% just to make sure that the people I'm hiring are actually going to be loyal to me and doing a good job, not sabotaging the platform and stabbing me in the back. And to be honest, I think that him, it's been known that he was planning on, firing a lot of people. I think that this, people knowing that probably has kept the site from being hijacked or messed up in any way by a rogue employee, because they probably want to prove to Elon Musk that they're going to be a good employee for him, for the company. So, and that completely makes sense. But at the same time, I kind of hate that so many people are going to be losing their jobs. Now, some people kind of cynically at the beginning were like, oh, these folks are not going to be able to find jobs. It's going to be so hard for them to find jobs. No. Axios has already said that they are opening up positions for former Twitter employees. There are going to be plenty of other people who are going to take in Twitter employees. many laymen, especially folks on the right, don't particularly like the people who worked at Twitter, largely due to things that, to be honest, we could probably mostly pin on folks like Vijaya Gadye, who also lost her job, who was the head of censorship there at Twitter. But the companies don't view these employees the same way that like individual folks like I or people like the Quartering or Tim Pool might view them. They're gonna have no trouble getting jobs, especially since a lot of them probably are very skilled and were good at what they did at Twitter. But yeah, it's still unfortunate. I don't think that a lot of them will be, fired for too long, but or what I mean by that is like unemployed for too long. But it is unfortunate that all these folks are going to be losing jobs. Now, this year, while the memo doesn't detail how many employees will lose their jobs, Musk is expected to cut roughly half of Twitter's roughly 7,500 person workforce. And his team, they did spend like the weekend determining who would get fired. He actually fired more like executives and leads throughout the week. I think it was on Halloween night at midnight. They cut off some former employees' access, kind of without like telling them, just being like, I guess you're gone. Like that's kind of like what they did. Let's see here. Now, here's one thing that's kind of interesting, and I haven't read into this yet, so it'd be interesting to dig into. After employees received the memo confirming layoffs will begin, many began quickly trying to unlink their Twitter accounts from their work email addresses, a company-mandated policy that also requires physical keys for two-factor authentication. So does that mean that the policy requires that the accounts, their Twitter accounts, be unlinked from email addresses? I mean, if so, that makes sense, but it's kind of ridiculous that they haven't done that until now. That's a huge security risk. You know how many times the Twitter accounts get hacked? And if you tie it to your work email address, that puts your work email at risk as well. So that's horrific. That's terrible. Let's see here. In Twitter's Slack and group chats, other employees complained about the lack of internal communication from Musk and Twitter's other leads over the past week. Makes sense. But but to be fair, I am not entirely shocked that Elon Musk and company have been trying to keep things under wraps as far as what's happening at Twitter. Because, with how many people at the company who probably hate him at the moment, you're not going to want to keep tons of people around. You're gonna want to get your company lean, mean, and a money marketing machine. Yeah, no, yes, but I mean that's probably what Elon Musk is thinking here. He's got these radical ideas, but he's also getting the workforce. Why? Probably because he only wants the best of the best, and he probably knows that there's a lot of bloat there going on too. So there's that. But hopefully Elon Musk does well. Hopefully these Twitter employees are quickly able to find new jobs or sit on their piles of cash like the C-suite's able to do with the golden parachutes that they've been given. Best of luck to Elon Musk and all his admins. I hope they make Twitter a better place. And best of luck to all of the users. I hope that they are still able to enjoy the platform. Or if they leave, I hope that they, enjoy the places where they're leaving to. So anyways, we're going to keep tabs on this. I'm sure you will too. I may make another video if I have some interesting commentary to share about this. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Bjork is making out with who's Bjork? Bjork? DJLL, what does it even mean? I'm so confused. I don't understand what's happening. Why did the Dinobot send an updates thing to my Discord server announcements channel of all channels? I'm deleting that. Why did they send that? All right, let's see here. Wait a second. Hold on. Wait, DJLO, you watched Mr. Robot episode 1? Did you finish it? I'm actually in the middle of a rewatch of Mr. Robot myself, like my first ever complete rewatch of the entire show. That's fantastic. I'm in season 3. Well, season 3, I don't think it's the best season. I think season 4 is definitely the best season. Season 3, I think, has some of the most memorable moments, and arguably my favorite sequence of episodes throughout the whole show. Because I have, when it comes to series, I have favorite episodes, and then I have favorite sequences of episodes. Where sometimes, you have like 2 or 3 episodes that like aren't the best. They're pretty good, but they're not like the best. But the way they work together is just so grand and great that they, like, as a collection, they're pretty valuable and very cool. I value them a lot. So, anyways, and he says, you need to finish it tonight. Yeah, you should. It's a great show, and season 1 is by far the worst season. Like, it's so much worse than the other seasons. Now, that doesn't mean it's bad. It's really good, but you don't even notice until you've watched all the other seasons and then go back to season 1 and you're like, not that it's like terrible, but the quality is just not at the same level as seasons 2, 3, and 4. Especially when it comes to how they make the story integrated and how tightly the storytelling is. I think they were a little bit loose in season 1 compared to the other seasons, which, granted, generally when it comes to how stories are told, they were very tight in season 1, but they were even tighter in the later seasons. It's funny, I keep on talking about how the other seasons are better than season 1 as if I'm like bashing the series, and I'm not. Or bashing the season 1. I'm not bashing season 1, I'm just pointing out that the show just drastically improved and kept on improving over the course of the series. Now, I know that there's election stuff happening next week. I kind of wanted to take a quick look at this. For the first time ever, for the first time ever, 538, which is a statistically run wing that is a collaboration between ABC News and ESPN. I'm sorry about that. For the first time ever, 538 has Republicans in projected to win both the Senate as let me see. Well, yeah, no, just like the Senate. So, wait, actually, no, both the Senate and the House. Where did that link go? There we go. Both the Senate and the House. Now, they've been favored to win the House for a while. Although this is an insane lead. Look at this. 85 and 100% chance of beating the Democrats in the House. That's a pummeling. Meanwhile, it's neck and neck. They're giving the Republicans a 55% chance of winning the Senate. So it is still very close, but they are giving the edge to the Republicans in both polls for the first time ever, I think. As far as this election season has gone, typically it's actually been 45 to 55 in favor of the Democrats on this Senate one. So it's interesting to see things flip. Now, I do want to see what it says here. Says the party that wins 2 of the 3 closest states will likely win the Senate majority. Republicans' 2 best pickup opportunities are Nevada and Georgia. However, Herschel Walker's scandals may hurt his chances against Democratic Senator Raphael Warnock. That'll be interesting to see, because I don't think that Herschel Walker's scandals are a problem for him, and I don't think it should be ethically. However, I think people are treating it like it is, so you do have to put that into consideration. But I don't think Raphael Warnock is particularly popular. I don't know that many people like him, so there's that to factor in as well. But generally speaking, I think that people care more about the Republicans' track records than the Democrats' track records. I think Republicans in general face a lot more scrutiny. So completely makes sense that Raphael Warnock wouldn't be as scrutinized for his, for his record, as senator, in comparison to Herschel Walker being judged for things as a high schooler or college student, I suppose. Let's see. Other Senate races are competitive but have identifiable favorites. For example, strong Democratic incumbents currently have an edge in Arizona and New Hampshire. And Senate races in North Carolina and Ohio are also close but will likely result in Republican winners. And we see here, this is looking... I mean, there's a lot more states, and this is just normal, but there's a lot more red states than blue states, it's looking like. This is what it seems like to me. So you can actually, this is a really cool website. I should use this in the future when doing more election coverage. But you can actually see kind of where they project like the vote to fall. So for instance, they think that Hoeven here will win by getting 70% of the vote. So here we have Walker and Warnock, and Herschel Walker is actually leading. Now, that is an old description. I do know for some reason over the past 24 hours, the polls have swung dramatically in the favor of the Republicans. And this was done on Halloween. So, yeah, things have changed. But it really is fascinating that, let's see here. It really is fascinating that now Herschel Walker is pulling ahead of Raphael Warnock, kind of despite all of the scandals. I do think that's a toss-up. I would hope that Walker would win, but honestly, you never really know when it's so close like this. You really just have to go to the polls and then hope for the best. Now let's see here. J.D. Vance is expected to beat Tim Ryan. Tim Ryan, if you don't remember, he actually ran for president last time around. Let's see what other toss-ups we have. There's Ron Johnson and Mandela Barnes. It's kind of looking like Johnson's gonna pull that one out, though. Let's see, in Arizona, it's leaning Democrat in the polls. I guess their forecasted vote share has Mark Kelly ahead. Ahead of Blake Masters. So this is all fairly interesting. It's interesting to see 538 for once finally giving the Republicans the edge for the Senate, which they've never done. They've always had the Republicans heavily favored to win the House. That shift in the polling in their data may indicate a red wave. But I do think that red waves are killed by saying red wave. So I wouldn't expect a red wave as optimistic as Republicans would argue that we'll get, but I do think that we're going to see Republicans get a majority, and that'll be fun to watch. Now we have the last story of the day before we wrap things up. This just came in today. I literally as I was playing today's stream. The GOP is planning on releasing a 1,000-page document about probing the FBI for for politicizing I believe it's the FBI. But yeah, the FBI as well as the DOJ. Now, this is cool because you've seen a lot of rhetoric from the right, right? Seen a lot of rhetoric from the right saying, hey, the FBI is corrupt, the DOJ is targeting Republicans, but it's not very often that you see concrete, hard evidence of that. This seems like it's going to be the first step in that direction. So it'll be really nice to see what comes of this. Now, allegations are one thing. Proof is another thing, and then convictions and, actual changes in the system are entirely different. So while I personally am somewhat inclined to think there might be something shady going on with the FBI, I would like to see this proven. So I'm looking forward to seeing these allegations, as well as seeing, how founded they seem to be, kind of objectively. This is going to be something very, very interesting to follow. I'm going to be if I'm going to be honest. I don't know when the last time, something like this has ever happened, if anything like this has ever happened before. Now, I've also heard rumors. Some people on the left have been complaining and saying that, the Republicans are going to take over the House and the Senate, and then they're going to do some crazy investigations against the Democrats. It'd be interesting to see if that's true. If they do, I hope they do it in a legitimate way. Just because I'm a Republican doesn't mean that I'm going to endorse every single action that the GOP takes. They have to follow the rule of law. Just because the Democrats have not always done so, in my opinion, does not give us the license to go in and be similarly heavy-handed and unfair against the Democratic Party and target them politically. So I hope that whatever they do, of course, you're not going to be able to completely remove political motivations, but I do hope that they kind of also make sure that they base all of their findings in facts rather than making things up and falsifying evidence, which we have seen happen before. I'm just gonna put that out there. But yeah, hopefully everything that they do is above board. We'll see. It's an establishment political party, so I doubt that everything the GOP is going to do is going to be above board. But I have even less faith that they're actually going to act on this. So I think if they do something, it'll be a win in my book. But we'll see. I think everything's going to come out on Friday. Let's see here. Now it says here, between the lines, Jim Jordan, who will likely become chairman of the powerful House Judiciary Committee next year should Republicans control the chamber, is the leading member behind the report, which relies heavily on reports from FBI whistleblowers. Interesting. So he says Jordan has made clear that he will use the committee to make the next 2 years of Biden's presidency as painful as possible for Democrats, with his document serving as a roadmap for how he'll navigate one of his key priorities. The report's table of contents, which includes references to Hunter Biden, school boards, pro-life facilities and churches, and Facebook, underscores the highly political nature of the investigation. Interesting. Now, to be fair, Axios is a far-left publication, so they are going to have some bias and possibly some snark in here too. Kind of, setting the groundwork, saying that it's a highly political investigation. To be fair, you're going to be covering these topics when you're talking about alleged corruption within the FBI targeting the Republicans on political grounds, because if you're talking about political targeting, it's going to be, you're going to be covering some political topics. It's just, common sense that one could expect that to occur. Now, it looks like there are some bullet points here. So that's rather nice. It'll be interesting to see how much progress they make in proving these claims. Anyone can make these claims. They better be able to prove them. Number one, artificially inflating statistics about domestic violent extremism. 2, abusing of counterterrorism authorities to investigate parents who spoke at school board meetings by creating a special threat tag to track school board related cases. That's interesting. What? I did not hear about that. That's crazy. Abusing his foreign intelligence authorities to spy on American citizens, including people associated with the campaign of Donald Trump in 2016. Interesting. That's also interesting considering the fact that nobody is talking about the fact that, okay, so how the DOJ has this portal where basically they were telling Facebook and Twitter who to censor? Well, Donald Trump signed off on CISA, C-I-S-A, which is the sort of like the department with like I think it's a department of the DOJ or something, or the FBI, that what was I gonna say? Yeah, they were what got turned into the disinformation board. When backlash came out about that, they just moved it back to CISA. So this is actually Trump's group when it comes to FBI censorship. Make no mistake, Donald Trump signed off on this. This originates with him. You can't really say, blame the left on it completely, because Trump did sign off on it. Then number 4, clearing the Bureau of Employees who dissent from its woke leftist agenda. That's interesting. And number 5, politicizing political cases over criminal ones and drawing resources away from real law enforcement duties. It says here, what they're saying, this report is a roadmap of where Jordan will go. That is fascinating. They need to, they just better make sure they can prove everything in court, man, because it's better just to not make any claims at all than to make claims and not be able to prove them, right? Nobody really respects Rudy Giuliani right now, even the right. You know why? Because he came out here with a bunch of claims about election fraud, didn't even do so much as like give a tiny smidgen of evidence. And this is, there's some folks like, when it comes to like election fraud and stuff, Mike Lindell came up with some, while they were disputed, their veracity was disputed, he did come up with some forms of evidence. Rudy Giuliani said, oh, there's fraud, and then had no evidence. We can't keep on, making all of these claims and statements without proving our claims. So hopefully this is a step in that direction. Jim Jordan has 2 years, because he wants to do this before the next presidential election. So we'll see how that goes. I wish him luck in proving everything if it's actually true. We'll see how this goes. But this is very, very fascinating, and it'll be really interesting to see kind of how this shapes the next 2, 3, 4 years politically. Let's see. Maybe doesn't know who Bjork is. Wait, isn't Bjork the person you made that art of? That sounds right. Anyways, thanks everyone for tuning in. This stream was extremely truncated. Wasn't able to cover everything in the depth that I wanted to. Part of that has been I've been busy. As I said, I was working on my server thing. I've also got school that's been picking back up again. And I'll be pretty busy over the next few days, so I don't know if I'll be streaming over the next few days. But once I'm done with the next round of homework, I am going to pick things back up, cover more political stuff. We know that we have the Super Tuesday stuff going on with the upcoming midterm elections. I'll be covering that probably on Monday potentially, because I may just want to watch the coverage myself on Tuesday night, if I'm going to be honest. I'm also going to continue our old politics series, reacting to every single presidential debate, picking things back up with JFK versus Nixon, round 2. They went at it for 3 rounds. No, they did 3 debates. We did episode 1 already. If you want, you can go back and watch that. It's really interesting to see how political discourse has changed from then till now. And it'll be interesting to watch that change and erode gradually. It's a great watch. I highly recommend it. But yeah, covering more stuff. Everything going on with Twitter and Elon Musk. More developments from the Congo and Rwanda and M23 and all that stuff as that happens. There's a lot going on, so it'll be interesting to follow everything. Also, while I'm not watching, keep yourselves informed on all these stories I cover here. You can check my Discord actually. I created a new section in my Discord called Area 51. And there's a section there called Politics. You can use that section in my Discord to talk about politics to your heart's content. I highly recommend, as you guys hear news stories or want to talk about things that are going on in the world, you use that channel to talk about them. I also have a religion section there to talk about Christianity. I put it in there because, I like talking about Christian things sometimes. I think it'd be nice to kind of have a whole section dedicated towards that. But I called it religion because I recognize that not all of my viewers are Christian, probably. And so, if you guys want to discuss other religions, feel free. But, seeing as I'm a Christian and we also have other Christians in the Discord, it'll be primarily Christian channel. So, but in any case, I hope you guys enjoy those 2 new sections to my Discord channel. And that's pretty much all I have. Thanks everyone for tuning in, and peace out. Join the Discord. I will see you guys around. DJL in the chat also said, in the promised land, get out of drama for once. I agree. Get out of drama for once.